Greetings, this is Derek, author and webmaster of Gematrinator.com. I just want to provide a little follow-up on the video I released yesterday on the death of this character Otto Warmbier, a former North Korean detainee who was released to the United States in a comatose state, only to die several days later. One of the reasons I'm making this video is because I want to urge people to speak out to those around them about gematria. Reason being is this. For anyone who's been listening to the Gematria Effect recently, they may know that I've been training a woman at work, and I taught her a little bit about gematria just because it had come up during the session. I'm not sure how. But I mentioned this story to her and, and the oddities behind it. Then she mentioned, hey, did you ever measure from the date of this man's death to the death of any other detainees in North Korea? And I thought, I didn't think of that. I don't know if anyone else in North Korea had actually died. Well, first I want to recap a couple things on this Otto Warmbier guy. Remember, he had the gematria of 322 in the primary Kabbalah cipher. But what I somehow missed is his date numerologies of his birthday. First of all, see the 47 on top. We talked about this number. He's from Ohio, which sums to 47. He also has 137 birth numerology. Again, that's the 33rd prime number. Remember, he died on a date with double 33 numerology, as I covered in yesterday's video. Also, this date, 12-12-94, sums to 119 full numerology. 12 plus 12 plus 94, also 118. Remember, 118, the number for death and homicide using Jewish. Previously, I've also covered the number 100 and how it has very similar gematria to the word killing. All of these numbers in his birth numerology. So I looked at this list of other detainees, U.S. citizens who had been detained in North Korea. And you see down here there's this cross mark by Otto Warmbier. And he's the only one on this list to have died since being detained, except for this first one. This man's name is Evan Hunziker, who was detained back in 1996, released later that year, and then died before 1997. So let's look a little bit closer at this guy. Here's a picture of Evan Hunziker. And as we mentioned, he was detained August 24th, 1996, released on November 27th, 1996. That's a span of 3 months and 3 days. Nothing suspicious there. Mind you, detainee also has 33 gematria using the septenary cipher, which goes up 1 to 7. Now, yesterday I shared some information about the numbers 26 and 62. The date Warmbier died had 26 and 62 numerology. These are numbers we see paired in the gematria of the word Mason, 26 and 62. Oddly enough, this awkward press conference with Otto Warmbier's dad began in the 602nd minute of the day. He was given a quote here that summed to 262. And for anyone who thinks I'm just picking numbers out of thin air, check this out. Well, first of all, detained has gematria of 62. May or may not be a coincidence. Also, 154 in reverse ordinal. Remember, these could be covers if these men are indeed dying for actual ritual sacrifices, which still occur to this day just under this guise of events in the news. Also, Evan Hunziker in English ordinal gematria sums to 154. But back to the number 62. His full name was Evan Karl Hunziker. Using the prime number cipher, his name sums to 602. And his birthday was 6/2 in the year 1970. From the date of his death to the date of the death of Otto Warmbier was 20 years and 6 months. And 1 day. So I guess you got me there. Notice Warmbier's death is in the headlines here on the date that I'm recording this video, which is 6/20. From December 12th, 1994, which was the birthday of Otto Warmbier, to the death of Evan Hunziker, was 2 years and 6 days. Here's a closer look at the date numerology of Evan Hunziker's birthday. He had birth numerology of 25 and 97. These are two numbers we see paired frequently in death, as I've covered previously in Murder by Numbers videos. Death sums to 25 and 97 when we use the reverse alphabetic order. That's Z is 1 and A is 26. Remember, 97 is the 25th prime number. Yesterday, I also shared some information from this slide, in which there was a little tribute here at the published time of this article, which was 721. 7 times 21 equals the Masonic number of 147. Freemason, Kabbalah, checkerboard, Masonic sacrifice, all 147. And the character in this story, Otto Warmbier, sums to 1407 using the Jewish cipher. The date that this man was detained, this being Evan Hunziker, fell on a date with 147 numerology. Additionally, I shared information on the number 47. Here we see the 47th prime being 211, matching gematria of Mason and Otto Warmbier. He was murdered in detention, according to his family. And a couple more 47s here, including the news, which runs with this number all the time. Well, the date of this detainment for Hunziker also had 47 numerology. And if Hunziker were still alive on the date of Otto Warmbier's death, he would have been 47 years and 17 days old. Remember, Warmbier died 17 months, 17 days after he was detained. More information on the numerology of his detainment: 39 numerology, which matches sacrifice and septenary, also 110, which is a number we see coded into death frequently, 110 in the prime number cipher. From June 2nd, 1970, Hunziker's date of birth to the date that he was detained was 314 months and 22 days, 314 being a number of pi, 3.14. The 22 was repeated in the death of Warmbier. Remember, he was 22 years old. He died at 2:20 p.m. in the afternoon. 314 can be achieved by using 22 divided by 7. If we divide 7 by 22, we get 0.318. And from his birthday to the date of his death was a little over 318 months. Also notice this 17 number once again. Now, including the end date, from his last birthday to the date he was detained was 2 months and 23 days. Also including the end date, from the date of his release to what would have been his next birthday, his 27th, was 188 days. A number of the Bavarian Illuminati using the English ordinal cipher. Carl Evan Hunziker, full name gematria in English ordinal of 188. Now again, if we include that end date, from the date of his release to the date of his death was 22 days. Another slide I included yesterday, we looked at this video from CNN in which they quoted hostile act in this headline. We noticed hostile act had gematria of 616, as does ritual sacrifice. Well, from the date of his 26th birthday to the date of his death was 6 months and 16 days. From his birthday to his death in 96, he was 96 days old. Interesting. Another thing I touched on was that number 235. Here we saw Warmbier died 5 months, 23 days before his birthday in Cincinnati, Ohio, which has that 235 gematria. Well, wouldn't you know, from the date of Evan Hunziker's death to the date of his next birthday would have been 23 weeks and 5 days. He was from Tacoma, Washington, which in Francis Bacon sums to 235. The last thing I want to look at, we saw some of the number 117 coded into this death. I think this has a lot to do with the number 77. I think 11 times 7 is 77. Also, 1 minute 17 seconds is 77 seconds. But the other town he was from, in fact, the city he died in, was Anchorage, Alaska. This sums to 117 using the alphabetic order. And from the date of his detainment to the date of his death was a span of 117 days. So that's all I wanted to cover. I just wanted to point out that, just when you think you're done looking, there's always more. And this just further proves what I brought up yesterday. Another Masonic ritual, another joke of a news story, something that nobody should really be believing at this point, but a lot of people still seem to be. So please share my work, share the work of Zach Hubbard. He's releasing his book very soon, a book that I'm supporting. I'll be writing the foreword for that. And I hope everyone picks up some copies and spreads the truth around, because this is the real truth revolution, people, and it's going to be happening. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.